Today on Sound Leadership with DJ, we have a very special guest, John Williamson. John is the owner and lead speech therapist at the Social Skills Laboratory. John has extensive experience as a pediatric SLP, speech-language pathologist, specializing in autism and social skills. John holds a master's in speech pathology and is a certified member of the American Speech-Language Hearing Association. Throughout his career, John has faced many challenges and has gained valuable insights into the world of leadership. In this episode, we dive into John's journey from his early days to his current role as a CEO and discover the lessons he's learned along the way. We'll also explore his tips for aspiring leaders and his thoughts on what it takes to be a successful leader in today's world. Join us as we learn from John's experiences and John's insight and gain a deeper understanding of what it takes to be a successful leader in the therapy industry. So without further ado, let's welcome John Williamson to Sound Leadership with DJ. Welcome, John.
Hey, thank you.
How are you doing today, man?
Oh, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, you're the star of the show. We appreciate you for being here. We're excited to learn about you, your career, your journey, and kind of all things leadership, right? So, John, tell us who John is.
Yeah, so I live up here in the greater Seattle area. I'm a speech therapist, of course. I started my business, Social Skills Laboratory, as kind of a part-time side hustle 5-6 years ago, and eventually it grew into a full-time thing. I made that leap about 4 years ago. I have my 4-year anniversary in August, so I always do a little party every year to celebrate and thank people. Wow. So it's been a fun adventure, but I enjoy the work I do. It's a good variety, keeps me on my toes, and it's an important part of my life.
Wow. So you stepped out on your own and did your own business. Is that what I'm hearing you say? You kind of stepped out on faith?
Yeah, I had a couple jobs out of grad school. I worked at a multidisciplinary speech therapy clinic, and then I worked at a specialty school for children who were struggling with district schools. And then I started seeing one client that wanted to stay with me from my old job. Started seeing them at their house just in the evenings during the week after my school job. And eventually I decided I wanted to do more of that. And so I made a website, got a business license, got it all official, and started advertising a little bit, word of mouth and online ads. And it started to accumulate more clients, got some social groups going. I filled up my Saturdays, and I filled up my evenings, and then I was working a lot for a couple of years, doing both jobs. And then eventually I felt comfortable to just make the transition to full-time with my business. I made that leap, like I said, about 4 years in August.
Wow.
So yeah,
to the leaders out there, right? Did you have any business experience before you made that leap, or you kind of believed in yourself and just figured it out?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I ran like a lemonade stand when I was 12, but I think I have some entrepreneurs in my extended family. And I think maybe I have that bone in my body a little bit, but I also really value security and stability. So it was a scary transition for me, for sure, which is part of why I did it the way I did it. But I think that it's been great for me, for sure. I think it's kind of, I don't want to say I stumbled onto it, because I did put effort into it, and I did have a goal, but it was never something that was like, I'm going to start a business. Like, it was almost like different steps happened along the way, and then one thing led to another. And then eventually I was at the place where I was like, okay, I need to make this my full-time commitment. So it wasn't, I never took, I took a few undergrad business classes, but business was not my major in my speech pathology master's program. There's really no courses or classes on starting a speech therapy business. There are some online resources I access, but it's very piecemeal, and I just kind of learned as I went, made mistakes, corrected. There's not really a roadmap, right? So I just kind of had to trial and error it and figure it out along the way. But one thing I'm starting in the next few months is I'm starting kind of a jump start program for other therapists, speech therapists specifically, who would like to start their own practices. And I'm going to start offering some support services for them so that they can kind of launch both in the Seattle area, but even, other places in the States. Because I think I've learned a lot through the journey, so I can help people along the way, because there is a need for more therapists out there. And I think a lot of people would benefit from launching out on their own, if not full-time, then at least as a side hustle. So I'm hoping to kind of help raise up another generation of private practitioners in the next few years.
Now that's leadership, right? And that's what this podcast is about, right? Leading and supporting others. So, John, let's dive into your definition of leadership. What is your definition of leadership?
Yeah, I think it's mostly just modeling and I'm a big lead by example guy. I'm not a super outspoken rah guy, but I think more of quiet leadership is my style, and then just kind of leading by example. And then if you have those experiences, I've kind of learned trial and error through my business starting, you have those experiences, you can take that and share that with others, and hopefully they can avoid some of the pitfalls that I ran into or mistakes I made or whatever. I think that's my style. It's more of a quiet leadership. Everybody's different. There's the rah people are needed too, but I think for me, it's more of a supportive role.
In your business, have you hired on any employees? And as a leader, when did you make that decision to hire on an employee, if you've hired on any help?
Yeah, I've recently dabbled in hiring. So it's been a long road to get there. It was just me for a long time. The minute you hire someone, especially a full-time person, which I haven't done full-time yet, you become more of a manager of people rather than a therapist. I think I wanted to stay a therapist first, and a business owner second, if that makes sense. But I have dabbled. I've started a Dungeons and Dragons group, which is a kind of a very complex board game, and I hired a gentleman to help me with that because I didn't want to put the time in to learn all about it. So he helps me lead my Dungeons and Dragons group on a part-time basis. And then I have started dabbling in hiring a few part-time therapists to contract for me. And then also, like I said, I've recently been starting a side business off of my main business that will be more of a consulting business to help other people start their own practices. So that's, I think, the route I'm going to focus more on rather than hiring a bunch of full-time employees, which is a great way for a lot of people to grow. But I think for me, I want to stay kind of focused on the therapy work. And so I'm going to have hiring be secondary. But it is a part of my business. It's nice to be able to make some money without being there all the time, right? Like with these Dungeons and Dragons groups, I couldn't make it last week, and I was okay because this guy led the group for me.
Yeah.
So that's obviously that's a huge perk, but I think I'm going to take more of the helping other people launch role. So more consulting and having some part-time employees here and there that can help me with specialized work that I don't have an expertise in. So whether that's hiring someone who specializes in feeding with kids, or hiring someone who knows Dungeons and Dragons, or hiring someone who is really passionate about sports and can lead a sports camp for me, I think that's the route that I'll go.
Wow. So as you start to hire these people on, what skills or I'll use the term, what skills have you kind of honed on to kind of craft your leadership? What do you say, makes you a great leader or a perfect leader for what it's worth, right? Because you have this vision, you still have to hire people, and you have to get people to follow you, right? So what skills are you using to get these people to follow you and kind of have a shared vision towards your goal?
Yeah, so I'm taking the approach of I'm hiring people that I'm going to be they're going to be pretty independent, right? So it's not, I'm not doing a ton of hands-on coaching or teaching with them, because either they already have their speech therapy degree and they're pretty experienced, or in the case of my Dungeons and Dragons group, it's something I don't have a lot of expertise in, so I'm going to let them take charge. But what I'm doing is I'm providing them the opportunity to grow and learn and flourish in this whatever opportunity it is, like with the group. And then I am providing that feedback when something goes awry or I sense that something is off, like say the group dynamic is having a tough time, then I'm there to support with that because that's more my expertise. And I can provide that coaching to them if it's something that I am comfortable with and am experienced with. I try to stay in my lane basically. So as a leader, I'm providing feedback where I am skilled, but I'm also letting them use their expertise in whatever specialty area, and they are leading that area. I'm not coming in saying, well, you're going to do Dungeons and Dragons this way because I read a book on it. It's letting them do that. And then
love it.
When they say if a kid's having a behavior challenge or a social skills related difficulty, then I can come in and provide that coaching and that modeling. But I try to stick to my lane with my model. And that's a little different than if you had a clinic and you were bringing in a lot of new grads, and you were bringing in a lot of SLP assistants and things like that. They would need a lot more hands-on coaching. And I've done that a little bit before in my old job, but that's not really the model that I've taken so far.
Well, so what I hear you saying is like you said, you allow people to work in their lane and sometimes make mistakes, but when they do, you're there to coach and you're there to guide them to success, right? So as a
I'm
part
not
of
a
your business.
Oh, sorry. I'm not a micromanager at all. I'm hands off, let them do their thing. If something is going very, very wrong, then I'll step in, right? But I try to be pretty hands off in my employment, I guess.
No, understand. So you do lead teams, right? Because it's not only your employees that you lead, but as an SLP, right? You've led, groups of kids, right? You've done group coaching and things like that. So how do you get groups of kids who may have social skills impairments, right? How do you get them to have your shared vision and progress along the line? And I don't want to use any inappropriate terms, so I'll kind of let you, guide that. But how do you gather a group of kids with various different social elements, right, and get them to move towards your goal?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think sometimes it goes better than others, of course. It is. There's only so much control you have. I used to be a teacher when I lived in Detroit with you.
Yes.
Well, not living with you, but near you, where I met you. I used to be a teacher, so I have that background in education. So I think that I really enjoy the social groups I do. I have learned there's only so much control you have as a leader of a group of children because they're going to have their own agendas and they're going to have their own personalities. But again, I try to be not a micromanager, but I try to be a facilitator in my groups. I try to provide kids opportunities to grow and to learn and to make mistakes and to step in when needed when things are really going off the rails. I do a lot of video modeling in my groups. We watch videos of other students acting things out. We do a lot of role playing in a lot of my social groups. So I do have some teaching strategies, but then I just try to facilitate an opportunity for kids to come together. And I call all my groups friendship groups. So I want them to come away with friends that maybe they even hang out with outside the group. That's the ultimate goal. I don't want it to just be another hour of school that they have to do on Saturdays or whatever. So try to make it fun. I try to make it open-ended and try to make it pretty flexible. But, we are learning skills, but we're trying to do it in a fun way. Because if they're not having fun, they're going to not want to come to the group. It's just going to be like another hour of math class or whatever. And then they're not going to be motivated. So if a kid can come away from my groups, like say they're in them for a few months and they make a few friends and they learn some people's names, then that's a big win for me.
Wow. No, I think you are onto something with your approach to how you're doing things. I really do. Your approach to leadership is refreshing. Your approach to leadership is great, right? Because you have to lead these kids. And when we talk about leading kids, once again, it takes a special So how did you find your love to work with kids, right? Because some leaders like to work with adults. You have chosen to lead kids. How did you find your love into that? In that?
Yeah, that's a I'm not sure if I kind of I did some work in college around like working with other college students, but I mean the same age, and that was okay. And then us a switch just kind of flipped like late in my undergrad, and I was like, I think I want to work in education. And so, and I didn't have a teaching degree or anything, so I was like, I found I did a nonprofit job for a couple of years working in a high school, and I really loved it. So that kind of got me started on the education track, and then eventually I did some teaching, and then I segued from the teaching was challenging largely because of like there's a large classroom, right? There's like 20 kids or whatever, and it becomes much more about like managing a large group. And I found that I really thrived in like the after school tutoring I was doing with the kids in my class, or the small group work that I would do. I found that was much more my style, and eventually I segued into working more one-on-one with special needs and brain injuries and things like that.
Okay.
And so I realized kind of my thing was more small groups and one-on-one, which is where I then found out about speech pathology. So it's like, again, it's like one thing led to another. I didn't even know what speech therapy was when I was 18 and went to my undergrad school. We didn't even have it there. So I found out about it in my mid-20s and then went to grad school. But it's been a great fit for me. I think it fits my personality well. I really enjoy it. I think I'm good at it. So instead of having 30 kids I'm trying to corral, I can really be focused on 3 or 4 or 5 or 1.
Yeah.
And really get to know them. And I don't know. I get a rush out of it. I think it's interesting the way that kids see the world, especially kids that have autism or kids that have different challenges. I think it keeps me young, and it gives me interesting perspectives on the world for sure. So
understand. So, John, as we get ready to draw this towards the end, what tips can you leave maybe our aspiring leaders, inspiring SLPs who want to, take the plunge into business ownership, right? What tips can you leave us with?
That's really important. I think, like I said, it's not really on my website yet, but in the next few months, I'll be making kind of a sub page that's going to be focused on being a consulting resource for aspiring business owners, especially in the speech therapy world, since that's mostly what I would be able to help with. But I think it's, there is an element of risk, but I think there are ways to do it with pretty little overhead, with less risk. You have to be willing to hustle. I work a lot. I used to work even more. You got to be willing to hustle. It's maybe not going to be the best fit for everybody, especially if you have a family and kids or whatever. Everybody's life situation is different. But I think, especially for people that want a challenge, there's no one size fits all. You can run a solo practice 5 hours a week, just a side hustle. That's great. Like, you can do that. You can grow. You can have a mindset like, I want to have 20 employees in a couple of years and be totally hands off and just like have a huge business. Like, you can do that. Like, there's no one size fits all model. We're in a very flexible industry in the therapy world.
Yes.
There's a lot of options. You can work anywhere in the country. Like, there's a lot of flexibility, which is awesome. And so I would just encourage people to maybe dabble into it. You can reach out to me, or, there are a few other online resources, but again, probably didn't learn anything in grad school about it. You probably don't even know that it's a possibility, possibly, but it definitely is. Yeah. Like, if I can do it and just kind of stumble into it, then I think a lot of other people can too.
Wow. No, John, I think you have some great talking points. And, as I always do with business owners on this podcast, right, I allow them to share their platform. So I want to bring up on the screen, right, your lovely website. So what is Social Skills Lab, right? What is it? How can people contact you?
Yeah, so it's www.socialskillslab.com, and we're on the About Me page, or About Us, because technically I do have a few contractors now, employees. So that's me. And then that's my main page. So it's got all the services I offer, my areas of specialty, the work I can do with your students. So basically I offer either home visits, where I drive to your house. So one thing I really my risk-averse personality, I didn't want to take on a ton of debt and overhead when I started my business, which was fortunate because I launched like less than a year before the shutdowns in Washington State. So I don't have an office that you come to. I come to you. So I either do virtual sessions on Zoom for kids that can do that, which not everyone can, or I do a home visit where I drive out to your house. And then I also have some virtual and in-person social groups and game groups.
Wow.
That kids can come to or join online. And that's really fun too. And then, like I said, I have the Dungeons and Dragons group, which I hired a gentleman to help me with. That's been really fun addition to what I offer recently. And then, like I said, it's not on my site yet, but I'm going to start kind of a jumpstart consulting spinoff.
Wow.
To help people out. So I think it's a pretty easy to navigate website. My contact info is on there. You can call me or shoot me an email. I'm able to see people in Washington State, and I'm also licensed in California. But for my social groups, people could join from anywhere because those aren't technically therapy services. They're more like just friendship services and coaching services. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to join, even if they don't live in the Seattle area.
Wow. John, you are amazing. You're a breath of fresh air, and what you're doing to help these kids is amazing, right? As you know, a mentor told me once, right? People generally are not willing to help the kids or the elderly, right? Our senior population, and you're doing one of those things by helping, our kids, right? And you're also trying to usher in a new group of speech therapists to successfully launch into entrepreneurship. And I think that's amazing because what you identified is gaps in services, right? Gaps in the service delivery model. And, it allows people to be treated in their home on their own time, right? Because we know that sometimes when, us as adults go to doctors, they get what they call white coat syndrome. That's the same for kids as well, right? So they get to a clinic setting and then they clam up. They're not able to be themselves. So what you allow them to do is be in their home environment where they're most comfortable. And I'm sure you see great success because they're in their home environment.
Yeah, it works well for a lot of kids. They can be more distracted too, but I think overall being able to work with the parents like on site is good. And then, the kids are more comfortable. They're not in the sterile kind of clinic, unnatural setting. There's some downsides. I drive a lot, spend a lot on gas. I in my car all the time. And I can't bring like a big sensory motor room to the kids. Like there are some downsides that a clinic space can provide. There's pros and cons, but the parents, I think a lot of families appreciate the convenience of it as well as that more naturalistic setting. Wow. And the fact that I'm right there with the parents, they're always welcome to watch and I can talk with them right in the session. So that works out pretty well.
Well, John, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to our viewers for watching us here on Sound Leadership with DJ. We hope you gain valuable insights and inspiration from our conversations with John. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to our social media pages. You can follow us right here on YouTube and on our LinkedIn at Sound Leadership with DJ. And you can follow me, your healthcare consultant, on Instagram and TikTok. I want you to remember, leadership is a journey and it's not a destination. I want you to strive to learn and grow and never give up on your goals like John did, right? He didn't give up on his goal, and now he's living the American dream as a business owner. From everyone here at Sound Leadership, we wish you all the best on your leadership journey and hope that you will come and join us soon for more great discussions on Sound Leadership with DJ. Thank you for watching.